Imagine for a second that you commit, like, the perfect murder in the middle of a vast, unforgiving mountain range. You hide the bodies in the deep earth, you push the victims' vehicles off a huge cliff into heavy timber, and you steal the security cameras.
Right, you think you have completely defeated the wilderness.
Exactly. But then you are totally undone by a crumpled McDonald's receipt and a smartphone pedometer silently counting steps in a dead man's pocket.
It is just wild. I mean, it's the ultimate collision of isolation and modern technology. We're looking at the Cascade Mountains in western Washington today.
Yes, specifically the area shadowed by the 2014 Oso landslide, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that landslide was a horrific natural disaster that wiped out an entire mountainside, burying homes and just leaving this massive permanent scar carved into the earth. The woods out there are dense. The quiet is really heavy.
So if someone wants to make a problem disappear, that landscape gives them a terrifying advantage. The wilderness can basically swallow a crime scene whole.
It can, but the truth doesn't just vanish because, microscopic errors always get left behind.
Which brings us to the mission of today's deep dive. We're exploring a really chilling true story, where that rugged terrain hid a double murder. But this isn't just about a crime.
No, it's a masterclass in how tiny details unravel a grand cover-up. I want you to step into the shoes of a homicide detective on day one of a baffling disappearance. You have to rely on this weird tension between digital ghosts and human error.
It's like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle, where half the pieces are buried under a mountain, and the picture on the box is just a total lie.
That is a great way to put it.
So the timeline begins on April 12, 2016. The victims are Patrick Shunn and Monique Patnaud. And by all accounts, they lived a really beautiful life. They actually met at Burning Man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were fiercely devoted to each other, and they ran this peaceful little hobby farm right by the river. They raised animals, loved the outdoors, just living their dream. But then, suddenly the farm goes completely silent.
And that silence was the very first red flag for their inner circle.
Right. On the night of April 11th, Patrick and Monique were supposed to go to an Iron Maiden concert with their close friends, Mike and Suzanne. But they never show up.
Which is weird enough on its own.
Yeah, and then the next day, Patrick misses his shift at work. So Mike drives over to check on them, and he finds their beloved dog, Cairo, just running loose outside the house.
Which, for people who worship their animals the way they did, a loose dog is a massive anomaly.
Totally. Mike is unsettled enough that he immediately checks the trail camera at the front gate, hoping to see who came on the property. He pulls the SD card and just hands it straight to the cops.
But that turned out to be a dead end, right?
Yeah, incredibly frustrating. The card was totally full. It had stopped recording long before any of this even happened. And when police sweep the property, they realize the couple's vehicles, a Land Rover and a Jeep, are both gone.
So that's the initial puzzle. How do you interpret that absence?
Wait, I gotta ask though. If you see two cars missing in an empty house, wouldn't your first instinct just be that they went on a spontaneous weekend trip? Why panic immediately?
You might think that, sure. But the dog running loose completely shatters that theory. You don't abandon your pet to go off the grid for a few days.
Ah, right, that makes sense.
And the detectives felt the exact same way. That broken pattern prompted them to pull expedited cell phone records for the couple, and the digital footprint they found, it killed the vacation theory instantly.
The data from April 11th paints a super strange picture. Monique's phone gets home at 11:04 a.m., and Patrick's phone gets there at 3:07 p.m. And after that, both phones just stay motionless on the property for hours.
While messages from friends and family are just pouring in.
Right, and the network data shows the read receipts triggering the messages are being opened, but nobody is typing a reply.
So someone is staring at the screens, but it definitely isn't Patrick or Monique. And then that weird stillness is followed by movement that sends a total chill down the investigators' spines.
Yeah, at 3:26 a.m., under total darkness, both phones travel together up this desolate logging road deep into the landslide zone, and then the signals just vanish.
Because nobody goes up a treacherous logging road at 3 in the morning for fun.
Exactly. So if the digital trail leads up the mountain, the physical hunt has to follow. The terrain is so wild, they coordinate a helicopter search. Just picture looking down at this vast green ocean of Washington timber, looking for one anomaly.
Until they catch a flash of metal.
Yeah. They find Patrick's Land Rover, but it is dangling precariously, completely nose down, balanced on a stump over a 90-degree cliff face.
It's terrifying just picturing that.
And it gets weirder. Someone draped a camo tarp over it and wedged a 4x4 wooden post underneath it, like a makeshift jack to push it over the edge. And then 268 feet straight down that cliff, resting in the brush, is Monique's Jeep.
So the search teams rappelling down must be assuming they're about to make a grim discovery, right? Like the bodies have to be in those cars.
That's what they thought. They pry open the Land Rover and the seats are empty. But there's blood pooled in the back, heavy rope, tarps, and shell casings.
So a violent scene, but no victims.
Right. And then in Monique's Jeep at the bottom, they find her wallet, bags of dog and chicken feed, a bloody shopping list, and, this is the crazy part, a crumpled McDonald's receipt.
And that one piece of trash becomes the entire foundation of the homicide investigation.
Because it had a timestamp.
Oh.
April 11th, 10:41 a.m. Detectives go straight to that McDonald's, pull the drive-through video for that exact minute, and there is Monique, sitting in her Jeep, paying for her food, with Cairo the dog in the passenger seat.
Which perfectly syncs with her phone data showing her arriving at the gate at 11:04 a.m. But since the groceries and animal feed were still in the Jeep at the bottom of a cliff, the forensics tell a very dark story.
She made it to her gate, but she never made it inside her house.
Exactly. The blood, the shell casings, the untouched groceries, it all proves they were ambushed the second they arrived at their property line, which narrows the focus intensely. Who was waiting for them at their own gate?
We have to introduce a neighbor named John Reed. After the 2014 landslide, John's property, which bordered Patrick and Monique's, was condemned. He took a massive FEMA payout, but the deal was he had to permanently leave the dangerous land.
But he took the money and stayed anyway.
Yep. He basically became a heavily armed squatter. And he kept using a shared road easement that was Patrick and Monique's driveway. The friction escalated super fast. Locked gates, illegal logging, police getting called all the time.
Have you ever had a dispute with a neighbor?
Oh, sure.
We all have, right? A fence line debate, a loud dog. You naturally assume the person across the fence is rational. Patrick and Monique thought they were dealing with a stubborn nuisance. They had no idea John Reed was actually lethal.
It's like the boiling frog scenario. Or like a stress fracture in a foundation. You see a tiny crack, assume it's normal wear and tear, and you don't realize the whole building is compromised until the roof literally caves in.
That is exactly what this was.
Yeah.
A lethal situation simmering slowly.
But Suzanne, the friend who reported them missing, she sensed the danger instantly. A few days after they vanished, she drove up to the property line, and she sees John Reed and his violent felon brother, Tony, leaving the victim's gate in a red truck.
Suzanne is an amazing citizen detective here. She didn't just wave, she pulled out her phone and secretly filmed them.
And when police watched that video, they zoomed in on the truck bed. Sitting right there is a heavy 4x4 wooden post and thick steel cables.
Which perfectly matches the makeshift jack at the crime scene on the cliff. That gave them the probable cause for a massive search warrant on John's property.
And what they find is creepy. Empty underground bunkers that used to be weed grow rooms, blood in the bathtub, and a barrel in the garage filled with clothes soaking in diesel fuel.
Which is a stark contrast to Patrick and Monique's house. When they search the victim's home, it's spotless, no struggle, only two things are missing or out of place.
Patrick's computer is gone. And on the kitchen floor, the Ron cat bowl was used to feed their cat.
Yeah.
Now wait, I gotta stop you here. In the middle of a massive double homicide, why does a mismatched cat bowl even matter? Isn't that just a meaningless detail?
You think so. But it breaks down the killer's incredibly disorganized psychology. Think about it. He murders them at the gate, adrenaline is rushing, and he spots the trail camera.
Oh, and he realizes he might be on video.
Right. He doesn't know the SD card is full. He assumes it uploads wirelessly to the house computer. So, covered in blood, he breaks into the house to steal the computer.
Okay, that part makes logical sense for a cover-up.
But while he's in there, in the middle of hiding a double murder, he hears a hungry cat meowing. And bizarrely, he just stops what he's doing to feed it, grabs the first bowl he sees. It shows a mind that is violently erratic, jumping from cold-blooded murder to domestic caretaking in an instant.
Wow, that is deeply unsettling. So, with the physical evidence piling up, the brothers realize they're caught. They flee to Phoenix, then cross into Mexico, funded by their parents who drained their bank accounts for them.
But the pressure of being fugitives fractures their alliance.
Yeah, Washington State had a moratorium on executions at the time, and Tony realizes he might avoid the death penalty if he flips. So on day 35, he surrenders and tells police everything.
He details this gruesome, calculated ambush. He claims he just helped clean up, but says John ambushed Monique, then waited 4 entire hours for Patrick to get home and shot him in the back of the head.
So cold. Tony leads them out into the woods to a muddy spring where they toss the phones, and then to a shallow grave under an uprooted tree where the couple was buried. They were actually found seemingly cuddling.
Recovering bodies there is incredibly taxing. Not just the terrain, but the media presence was insane. News choppers were swarming.
The disrespect to those helicopters circling was awful. So Detective Dave Fontenot pulls off this brilliant trick. Away from the grave, he lays out a blue tarp in a clearing and meticulously arranges a row of sticks on it, from smallest to largest.
It looked like crucial forensic evidence from the air.
Exactly. The news cameras all zoomed in on these random sticks, completely distracted, while the team recovered the bodies with dignity under the tree canopy.
That is just brilliant, and it highlights the contrast between the smart investigators and the sheer cognitive breakdown of the killers. Remember those clothes soaking in diesel fuel?
Right. Tony said they went to the garage, stripped off their bloody clothes, and doused them in diesel to burn the DNA. But they never lit the match. Why leave it?
Adrenaline dump. The amygdala hijacks the brain under stress. They remembered the broad plan destroy clothes with fuel, but the fine detail of actually lighting it was totally wiped from their working memory.
And it gets dumber. Before they stripped off those clothes right in the middle of the cover-up, they decided they were hungry.
Oh, this is the craziest part.
They drive to a 7-Eleven at midnight to buy energy drinks, wearing the exact same bloody clothes they were about to soak in diesel, caught on high-def security cameras with the time-stamped receipt.
They planned a murder in the woods, but completely forgot about the surveillance state they live in.
Unbelievable. So Tony is in custody, but John is a ghost until day 100. He gets captured outside a barber shop in Puerto Penasco, Mexico. And when brought to trial, he pulls a desperate card. He claims self-defense.
He testifies that Patrick and Monique arrived together, pulled guns on him, and he had to shoot them in a synchronized fight.
But if there are no living witnesses, how do investigators definitively prove to a jury it wasn't self-defense?
That is where the ultimate digital trump card comes in. The Apple Health app data from the victims' phones.
The ones pulled from the mud.
Yes, your phone's internal pedometer doesn't need a cell tower. It logs your physical steps locally. And the data showed Monique's phone permanently stopped moving at exactly 11:07 a.m.
Just minutes after the drive-thru.
Right. While Patrick's health app recorded movement all day until 3:07 p.m., this irrefutable digital footprint proves scientifically they died 4 hours apart, completely destroying John's synchronized ambush lie.
Wow. And John Reed is convicted of aggravated first-degree and second-degree murder. It brings closure, though obviously it doesn't bring him back. Their family shared such touching memories, like Monique raising baby sheep inside their house.
And Patrick putting potatoes in his niece's Christmas stockings as a joke.
Yeah. That niece actually got a tattoo honoring Detective Fontenot's mantra from the manhunt, "The truth never dies."
Which perfectly sums it up. A perfectly planned cover-up in the wild, undone by microscopic human errors. A McDonald's receipt, a meowing cat, and a pedometer.
Which leaves you with this final thought. We all leave a silent digital shadow every second of the day. It brought justice here. But ask yourself, as you walk through your life today, who else might be reading this story your devices are silently writing about you?